What up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. I am Alex Shapiro, and with me tonight is Kevin Lapka, and boy, the Bears got problems. Offense, defense, ugly football game. Kevin Lapka, please, just first reactions after watching whatever that was that we just watched.
I don't think I can come to any semblance of a sentence or reaction from that game. I mean, I don't know if I have anything coherent to say about what I just witnessed here this week from the Chicago Bears. I mean, honestly, I'll be transparent. Like, there was hope for me at the start of this game and prior to the game. There was hope because you see the boost that teams get after they fire head coach. I tweeted it. Since 2014, teams are 16-5 against the spread after a coach is dismissed mid-season. This year, you've seen it a couple times. The Jets lost to the Bills 23-20, close game when they fired Robert Saleh, and then the Saints, when they fired Dennis Allen, beat the Falcons 2017. So you're thinking to yourself, maybe the Bears are next in line. They'll get that boost. There will be energy. There's hope. And maybe Thomas Brown proves himself these last 5 games to potentially be the long-term solution, rather, at head coach. And you fall flat. You get none of it. And honestly, Alex, by halftime, I was apathetic. I mean, I had the hope. I lost it. And I was scrolling Twitter in the second half, watching what was going on in the Bills-Rams game. I mean, that's just where we are as Bears fans. Like, It's gotten so bad that you're emotionless at this point. We'll talk about solutions. We'll talk about where to go from here. We'll break it down in a detailed analysis, but purely from watching the game, like, emotionless as a fan of the team. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, that's tough. It's a tough watch. No boost for the Bears. It's just a season where nothing has gone their way, seemingly, since the bye. So, you know, I talked about it a little bit leading up to the week, that this just felt like it was going to be a get-right game for the 49ers, who were coming off that embarrassing loss to the Bills and were pissed and are still in the hunt. They put the Bears in the hunt playoff graphic. Can you believe that? The 49ers are actually in the hunt in the NFC West, which is extremely competitive. All those teams are kind of beating each other up. They have something to play for. Bears are playing for pride at this point. They are not in the hunt, no matter what Fox tells you. I believe, according to ESPN's analytics, they had a 0.1% chance of making the playoffs heading into this week, which is ironically the same chance they have of getting the number 1 overall pick in the draft for a third year in a row. So mired in mediocrity. It was the get right game for the 49ers in the way that the Bears did not get their get right game against the Patriots, and the spiral continues. Let's dig into the offense, because the offense the defense is bad. And we're going to put that aside for a moment. We will talk about the defense being bad, but the offense is more troubling because the offense is what this team invested in. This team brought in Caleb Williams with the number 1 overall pick. They shelled out for DeAndre Swift to lead the running back room. They traded for Keenan Allen. They used another top 10 pick to bring in Rome Odunze. They brought in Gerald Everett to be the number 2 tight end. Where is Gerald Everett? He is just another dude in a long line of number 2 tight ends who are floundering in Chicago. So the offense is extremely troubling. And what's most troubling is that it's been really, really bad in the first half. Really bad. And this is in the Thomas Brown era, really bad in the first half. Last week, the Bears offense had 2 first downs and 53 net yards in the first half. Somehow they were worse this week against a defense missing Nick Bosa, against a team that had a much worse rest advantage, right? The Niners played on Sunday night, as we just alluded to, against the Bills. The Bears played on Thursday night. Those are important 3 days. Somehow the Bears did even worse. In the first half this week, 1 first down, 4 net yards. Big time problem, and the Bears don't have answers. Kevin, what do you make of the Bears' inability to do anything in the first 2 quarters of a football game recently?
Yeah, Alex. I mean, it's unexplainable. The Bears had 4 yards in the first half tonight. They're fewest in the first half this millennium. That's that per Kevin Fishbane. Like, we talk about the boost, right? And we talk about, the energy that we expected them to have in the game from the jump. I would have expected them as an offense to maybe try something different, right? We saw different things from this Thomas Brown offense. Maybe not in the first half necessarily, in these first couple games that Thomas Brown has been the play caller, but we saw some semblance of an identity from this offense. And I felt like for the first half, there was no identity for this offense. We didn't know what they were trying to do. And of course, the offensive line didn't play well today. Caleb took a couple bad sacks. It was bad execution across the board. But where's the identity? What's the plan here? Again, those first 15 scripted plays, you're going back to the beginning of the year where there's no idea, there's no semblance of what's going on here. And these first couple drives, they looked lost and they had no response, no answer at drive after drive after drive. I mean, I don't know where to pinpoint it, Alex. I really don't know what it comes down to, because you get to this point, and this is a broader point as well. The blame game gets played every week. That's just what happens when you evaluate NFL teams. The blame game was played for a long time until they fired Matt Eberflus. And we got to this point, and where does the blame get directed now, right? I don't know if people are going to blame Thomas Brown. Is the blame going to Ryan Poles, right? It's hard to pinpoint what's wrong here, because, I mean, I think you tweeted, I saw somebody tweet it, a lot of this could be the byproduct of just understanding that this is a lost season. Right? That the player, and that's not an excuse to be made for the players, but maybe they just approach this like, we fired our head coach. We know there's a 0.1% chance we're going to make the playoffs. The season has been broken for weeks now. And when you start as bad as you do, like they did in those first couple of drives, like there's no energy, there's no motivation when you go down 14-0 and then 24-0 to pick it up and to fight and to play for something. And I don't know whose fault that is, who's to blame for that, but I mean, that's the way it looked to me. Was like, It was zero energy, zero motivation, and zero willingness to pick this thing up and find a way to win a football game.
More just sad stats about the sorry state of the Bears offense. They went 3 and out on 4 of their first 5 possessions. Atrocious. For the third week in a row, DeAndre Swift did not top 40 rushing yards. And Caleb Williams took 5 sacks on third down. He took 5 sacks on third down. And this was kind of interesting to me. This dinged for me after the game at the press conference. I believe it was Nick Moriano asked, hey, what's going on with all of these third down sacks? What's going on these that, all of these sacks are happening on third down? And Caleb Williams actually kind of brushed it off and said, like, whether it's an incomplete pass, whether it's a run that's stopped short of the gains, whether I check it down and it's a tackle short of the sticks or a sack, we're punting anyways. So he essentially brushed off the question, which part of me understands that thinking. Like, yes, you got to try for your home runs, but another part of me is like, nah, man, you can't be taking 5 sacks on third down. Whether that's a schematic philosophy, whether they're saying we're going to take these shots in these moments, even though we have no history of hitting these shots in these moments, whether that's throughout the season or in this game, whether that's his mentality, it just strikes me as there's a little dissonance there for me. What do you make of Caleb Williams' kind of dismissal of somebody questioning that he's taking all these sacks on third down?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, he's at the point where he doesn't have the answers either. And I don't think he's calling anybody out by like, oh, the play wouldn't have worked anyway if I hit this player. I don't think he's really making excuses for himself. I think he's just like, I don't know what to do at this point. Like, the protection's breaking down. I could try to air it out. It's probably going to incomplete. I could probably, I could try to check it down. Like, the result is not going to be successful either way. I think that's what he's trying to say. And essentially what he said is, this is broken. And whether I take the sack or not, the first down's not getting done. And that's why I think you see him hold on to the ball. And this whole sort of idea of Caleb, it was a theme in the earlier portion of the season, like wanting to play hero ball. I'm going to hold the ball to try to find the bigger play. He really improved on that to really get the ball out of his hands quickly, and they started to design better schemes for him to get the ball out and to move the ball down the field and for him not to necessarily be the hero. And I think what happens was when you get down early in games like they have every single time, you're forced to play hero ball in a way. Like, you as a player, you're thrust into this situation where we're not going to move this isn't working. We have to find something down the field. I have to be the hero. I have to make a play. The way this offense has moved, we're not going to be able to methodically move down the field and come back down 24-20, in all of these games. So when I saw that from Caleb Williams in the press conference, like, I don't think he has the answers. I don't think anyone has the answers, because again, where do you find the answers at this point in time? Where are they lying? Where are the solutions for this team? You've changed head coaches, you've changed play callers, we've had shuffling personnel across the board. You are lost, and sometimes when you're lost and there's no answers, you get stuck with answers like that in a post-game press conference.
Bears are looking for the whys since 2019 with Matt Nagy. God. He's eternally looking for the whys.
Where did they hide the whys? You're golden. When you go to Hallis Hall, Alex, we are going to put you on a mission to find the whys. They're in the halls somewhere. They're in the walls of that building, and it is going to be on you to find the whys, Alex.
I'm going to start uncovering stones. That's going to be my new mission. Last month of the season, find the whys. There was one silver lining, though. We just dunked on the offense for 11 minutes. One silver lining for this team. And Kevin Lapka, you said you were disinterested. You don't care. I'm going to give you a reason to care for the last month of the season. And that is the Caleb Williams to Rome Odunze connection. Once again, look pretty sweet. These two, their rapport at the beginning of the year was not good. It took them some time to develop chemistry, get on the same page. They clearly, Caleb was thrown to one spot and Rome was running to another spot. Now here we are, last month of the season. They've got something cooking. They once again connect for 2 touchdowns. The first was a beautiful back corner of the end zone throw. Rome Odunze makes the grab. Great awareness, looks straight down, makes sure he gets his feet down, which was a difference from earlier in the year where he set up in the end zone with his feet out of bounds. Caught a football out of bounds, growth point. And then another one, he runs, looked like, I just off the top of my head, haven't watched the replay or anything like that. A little post up the seam. Once again, Caleb Williams puts a throw right on the money. Touchdown. Bright spot. He caught 4 passes on 6 targets, 42 yards, and the 2 scores. Is this like enough? Is this the silver lining that keeps the Bears kind of hopeful heading into the offseason? Is this the connection that said, hey, Ben Johnson, listen, we know things are ugly and we have no identity, but these two guys together, they got something. Is that enough for you?
I mean, it's not quite enough to erase, the ineptitude we saw today, if I'm being honest, but like, as the hours pass and as I get to Monday morning and Tuesday, this is the thing you're going to go back to, right? This is the nucleus, the core of this offense, of this team that you're going to build around it, right? And that's what you want. You have the 1st overall pick and the 9th overall pick, and the expectations were set high for both of these players. And in sort of a crowded wide receiver room, it hasn't necessarily been the production we expected out of Rome Odunze necessarily here in his rookie season, right? And I think most of us are pretty reasoned and tempered with what to expect when you have a guy in DJ Moore who just earned a contract, and you have a guy who's been as successful and has a reputation like Keenan Allen does. We didn't expect Rome Odunze to be a 1,000-yard receiver for 15 touchdowns, right? We didn't expect that, but I think a really good case study is take a look at Geno Smith and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I really only make that point because of the Shane Waldron connection. And one of the things I was super conservative about when I entered this season from an evaluation standpoint of the team was I didn't really love the way Shane Waldron utilized his rookie wide receiver in Jackson Smith and Jigba last year. And early portions of this year, I didn't love the way they used Rome Odunze. And now you're starting to see that connection blossom. And then you see what Jackson Smith and Jigba has done this year. And you start to think about this is the connection that you hope is going to be here for the next 10, 15 years. Like, that is the type of longevity, right? The Travis Kelce to his Mahomes. Those are the things that you think about, those tandems that have carried teams to Super Bowls. And you saw the glimpses of that. I think that there's some things that they each have to work on before they're Kelce and Mahomes. Let's not get there yet. But just, the contested catchability of Rome Odunze that we saw in college finally coming to life here is really encouraging. And when you're on the head coach market, those are 2 really, really attractive pieces that prospective coaches like Ben Johnson are going to look at and say, yeah, I would love to nurture this relationship into one of the better head or quarterback wide receiver duos we've seen in the past decade. That's the hope.
All right, let's turn the page to defense. Found a silver lining on offense. I don't know that we're going to find a silver lining on defense, Kev. I'm not counting Jonathan Owens' interception against Brandon Allen. Doesn't count.
Come
Garbage time
on,
interception against
Alex.
the backup. Nope. I don't count it. That's the backup QB in garbage time. I don't count it. Sorry, Jonathan Owens. It was a nice play. I'll say, hey, nice play, Jonathan Owens. You made the catch. Not enough to be a silver lining, though. Something that we're hanging our hat on for next week. Extremely troubling trend for the Bears. Explosive plays.
Mm-hmm.
They gave up the explosive plays when they couldn't to the Green Bay Packers and Christian Watson. They gave up the explosive plays to Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and the Vikings. Last week, they gave up a ton more explosive plays to the Detroit Lions in the air and on the ground. And this week, I decided to track it. The Bears gave up plays of 23 yards, 33 yards, 20 yards, 32 yards, 27 yards, 23 yards, 30 yards. That one was a run, a 30-yard run play, 32 yards, and 39 yards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 plays of 20 yards or more. The Bears defense gave up today. Kevin Lapka, what is going on with this unit?
God, I hate how you keep asking me to find the answers for these things that do not have answers, Alex. You're putting me in a tough spot here. I think when you really look at it, a lot of it is rooted in the lack of pressure that we've seen in the past couple weeks. Like that really has been a theme for me. Montez Sweat, I would expect a little bit more, if I'm being honest, from Montez Sweat. I know he's not supposed to do it on his own. I'm not saying he has to do it on his own. This is a unit that we were concerned about at the start of the year. Gervon Dexter, a little injured in this game as well. About halfway, I think he got hurt in the second quarter, was that? Or maybe it was the third. It's just a unit that hasn't been able to generate enough pressure. And Brock Purdy in that Kyle Shanahan offense, when they have time, can pick you apart, okay? That's simply what they can do. I don't know why George Kittle is running wide open in the middle of the field half the time. I don't know why no one is pressing up and covering Juwan Jennings multiple times in the red zone. Like, again, I don't know what went wrong. Sure, you could honestly make the case that they missed Matt Eberflus today in that aspect. Like, I think that's a very fair thing to say. We said for the longest time, Matt Eberflus might be a pretty dang good defensive coordinator. He's just not a great head coach. And they don't have their defensive coordinator, quote unquote, today in Matt Eberflus, and they looked a little bit lost. But to me, it's all rooted in that lack of pressure, right? This is a game that's won and lost in the trenches. We can say it every single week, and it will hold true every single week. It is the reason that they were inept on offense, and it's the reason that they got shredded on defense. I mean, do you agree about that lack of pressure? To me, that's where it all starts. When I look at the last 3 weeks as a whole, not just today, and I try to find the solutions, to me, it starts there. You give these guys in the offenses think about the head coaches they've played the last 3 games. You are talking about Ben Johnson. You're talking about Kyle Shanahan. You're talking about Kevin O'Connell. And the week before that, you're talking about Matt LaFleur. These are 4 of the smartest football minds we have in the NFL right now from an offensive play calling standpoint. You cannot afford to not get pressure against these guys and the teams and the offenses that they have. And that lack of pressure to me has been truly what has crumbled them in these last couple games on defense.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it starts up front. You name dropped specifically Brock Purdy, George Kittle, and Juwan Jennings having great days. Let's go over their numbers. Brock Purdy, 20 of 25 for 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. George Kittle, 6 catches on 6 targets for 151 yards. Juwan Jennings, 7 catches on 8 targets for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. They really just sliced the Bears up. And the Bears could not get the pressure up front, right? It's been a problem all year. I think I have a bit of an explanation of why some of these guys are running free in the middle of the field. Eric Washington dialed up a lot more blitzes than we've seen Matt Eberflus dial up. Flus kind of had a decent knack for dialing up a linebacker blitz or a nickel corner blitz or even a safety blitz at times to generate pressure, and it worked. Today I saw, this is anecdotally too. Again, haven't watched the replays and all that. Anecdotally, it seemed like Eric Washington was dialing up a lot more pressure, but that pressure was getting home far less frequently than it was. There were at times TJ Edwards is making a play. Kyler Gordon is making a play. But a lot of the times the guys were getting picked up, nobody's getting home, and then bam, we have guys running free in the middle of the field. Tremaine Edmonds is being asked to cover a whole lot of space, and guys are getting open. So when you can't get pressure with your front four and you need to bring the blitz, you need to get home with that blitz, because if you don't get home with that blitz, then you're extremely vulnerable. And today the Bears just looked vulnerable when the front four weren't getting home, and then the extra rushers also weren't getting home. So it's a major issue. And the defensive line, it might be the number one thing the Bears need to address this offseason, because, Andrew Billings is a big nose tackle in the middle there who helps plug things up and also does dent the pocket from the middle. He does a really nice job creating havoc as a nose tackle. Jaquan Brisker has been missing a long time, and he's a playmaker. But I think these problems go beyond missing Jaquan Brisker and missing Andrew Billings. Like, every team is banged up. The 49ers were missing Nick Bosa today. And I don't know if you remember, a few minutes ago, we were talking about the Niners had 5 sacks on third down without one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. So I think this goes beyond, the Bears are missing Jaquan Brisker and the Bears are missing Andrew Billings. They need to seriously add to that front four to get things going over the offseason.
Yeah, no, Alex. I mean, look, and this is what I'm saying. What I referenced earlier, there's going to be a scapegoat these next 4 games. It's already happening. All right, on Bears Twitter, and I think there's going to be a lot of questions, fair or not, asked about Ryan Poles. Right? We brushed some of this off to the side. We really did at the start of the year. I did, at least, right? Because I was super excited about the acquisition of Caleb Williams and the trade that was made with Carolina and Rome Odunze being paired up. Like, I thought it was a good job to put the Bears in the position they were in. And to my own fault, I'll be honest, I didn't address enough the impact of how potentially bad both those units were going to be in the trenches on the defensive and on the offensive side of the ball. But when you fire the coach and things are still looking this bad, right? Some of the blame is going to be turned to Ryan Poles. Why didn't he do enough in the offseason or in the draft, maybe to protect, Caleb Williams, his rookie quarterback, and save him from being one of the most sacked rookie quarterbacks in the history of the NFL? Why didn't he do enough on the defensive side of the ball when we knew it was a glaring issue at defensive tackle, despite the potential progression and development of Zach Pickens and Gervon Dexter, right? And the acquisition of Darrell Taylor. And whether it's fair or not, those questions are going to be asked. And Alex, I mean, I believe his job is safe. I think what Kevin Warren said in the last press conference was very reassuring that they're going to keep him around. But Kevin Warren did not hire Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles made the mistake of hiring Matt Eberflus. The question I'll ask you, because you are in that building more often than I am, you have a pulse of this thing. I don't think Ryan Poles is going to get fired. But what has to happen for that to be a conversation come week 18 if the Bears were to lose out, or if we're to lose, 3 of their last 4 by significant margins? What has to happen?
I don't think it's a conversation right now. I think Ryan Poles is going to be around for this second head coach. But if the second head coach doesn't work out, I also believe that's going to be Ryan Poles' last head coach. I think if things don't work out in 3 years, then Kevin Warren is going to be hiring a new GM and a new head coach, because he made the decision to hire Flus, 1. He made the decision to retain Flus, 2. So those are 2 big moments. And then he'll get this next head coach, right? Then you look at the quarterback. He decides to retain Justin Fields instead of drafting CJ Stroud, which looks like a mess. And then Caleb Williams is obviously such an enormous decision with the number 1 overall pick that, that feels like you kind of hear like GMs get two head coaches and 2 quarterbacks, right? The decisions have been so big in both areas that it feels like the next head coach decision, again, if it doesn't work out, if it is a real quick flame out, that could be the end of the Ryan Poles era. And that's just my gut feeling. That's not based on anything I've heard or anything like that. That's just a gut feeling. And looking at that Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles presser from Monday, was that just Monday? Like that feels like years ago. what a week. Seriously. So I don't think Ryan Poles is on the hot seat, but
sure.
as you said, you can only fire Matt Eberflus once, and you're not going to fire Thomas Brown now. You're probably not going to fire anybody else. You're kind of running out of guys to fire here. So
exactly, someone's got to get fired. Someone's got to take the blame, Alex. I mean, come on, how are things going to change unless we fire somebody?
You're right. The spotlight's going to move to him. The spotlight is going to move.
It already has. I think it already has. And look, I'm mixed in my opinions right now. You know, there's some big blemishes on the resume. There really are some big blemishes, and the bright spots seem to be dimming a little bit when you think about it. So it's just like you talk about the cycle and you talk about organizational structure, I guess you could say, and you talked about the second head coach and everything. Like, say they hire Ben Johnson and things go wrong again next year or something. Like, they're not going to fire Ben Johnson, but are they going to fire the GM at that point? And then the GM wouldn't have hired the head coach, and then we're in another cycle of misalignment with the organization. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. If Kevin Warren truly wanted to approach it, like, all right, let's get that organizational structure clean and fresh. Like, is there any appeal to that from an organizational standpoint? That's all I'm asking.
You're talking about right now. Like,
yeah, I mean, if at the end of the year, if they lose out and Kevin Warren is like, I didn't hire this guy, maybe we go a different direction and we have a new general manager, a new head coach, and all this fresh stuff. I don't know.
But you're not really resetting the deck because now you have a GM and head coach who didn't draft Caleb Williams, and I know Caleb Williams was like on the top of a lot of people's draft boards, but from what you hear and what you read, he wasn't the top of everybody's draft boards.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Good point.
So you're once again not really resetting everything because, again, now you have a quarterback who is just like Justin Fields working with a GM and head coach that didn't draft him. You're just re-racking that whole situation again.
Yeah.
So it's a sticky situation.
Trying to find answers, Alex. I think you're right, though. Ryan Poles is probably hitched to Caleb Williams' wagon, right? Like that is ultimate. Like, unless things were really bad, Ryan Poles is probably around for as long as Caleb Williams is around if things were to get bad. I mean, I don't know. It's just that's the goal. That's the hope, right? Like that is the goal. Is that the Bears, they hire the right coach, things are significantly better, and then this is like a long-term, like 10-year Andy Mahomes, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Brett Veach type thing, right? Like I keep making these comparisons to the Chiefs, but that's the gold standard. That's the goal. So I'm working through this in my head, Alex. I'm trying my best to find the answers as we go.
You're trying to find the whys, man. You're trying to find the whys, just like everybody else. Okay, you said get really bad, and I'm going to use your words, get really bad, to flip another question. Anya, the Bears finish the year at Minnesota to play the Vikings. They then host the Detroit Lions, who look like the best team in the NFC. They host the Seahawks, who are atop the NFC West and will be fighting for playoff positioning. And then they go to Lambeau Field, where we know the Bears play so well. Yeah. So my question to you is, what are the odds the Bears win another game this year?
I was going to try to put it into gambling terms for you. I'm trying to think about it, and I think the odds that they lose out are probably like plus 200. I think that's fair from an ad. You think they should be favorited to lose out? I mean, it is the NFL.
Plus 200.
It is the NFL. All right, look, they were close to beating the Minnesota Vikings. They were close to beating the Detroit Lions. Anything can happen with a West Coast team playing at home in December against the Seahawks. I don't think they have any chance to beat the Packers in Lambeau, but parity-driven league, weird things happen. For them to lose 4 in a row, I think plus 200 is probably fair from a gambling standpoint. You disagree? You think it should be minus 3,000? Alex,
I kind of want to go in the lab and see if I can actually go
find that anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Find that anywhere and plug it in and see what I get.
I mean, I might be crazy, but just given the way the NFL is, that's the way I put it from the gambling standpoint. With that being said, I think they'll win one out of these next four. I don't think they'll lose out. I think they'll find a way to either beat Minnesota and they might beat Detroit. They for some reason they've played the Lions really well. I don't know why. And the Lions might be due for a late season loss at some point, right? Like, this is just the way the NFL works. They might beat Seattle. They're a vulnerable team. They're not going to beat Green Bay. I already said that. I think they'll find one win in these next three. They're a much better team at home. Divisional games are always a little bit of a crapshoot, although the Bears have proven to be inept against the division under Ryan Poles ever since he said they were going to take the North. So I think they'll win one of the next three. But if they lose out, and their 11-game losing streak tops that 10-game losing streak from the 2022 season. I mean, again, the questions we're having at the end of Week 18, if they were to lose out, are really dangerous questions, and really not the questions you want to be asking. So let's hope that does not occur. But yeah, I'm putting the odds plus 200. You can bet the house on it or not, Edgar. But that's what I'm.
Our producer Edgar says bet the house. If you're getting plus 200 that the Bears lose out. And I do want to underline what Kevin just said. If they do lose out, they would have an 11-game losing streak. An 11-game losing streak, which tops the 10-game losing streak that we talked so much about in the 2022 season. That was the year that the Bears went 3-14. The Bears would only be one game better this year, 4-13. But oh my, the expectations were oh so different this season. And it's kind of wild that we're here talking about this, Kevin.
Wild.
It's kind of wild.
I didn't think this was in the realm of possibility that we would be talking about a potential 4-13 season, Alex. I did not think it was in the realm of possibility. I didn't.
We were talking 9 wins, man. We were talking like, oh, they won 7 games last year, so they could win 9 now.
I was talking 10, Alex. I was talking 10.
Oh my God, she went all the way to double digits. Oh. You know what? You weren't alone. A lot of people were talking double digits. You listening at home, I know a lot of you were thinking double digits. And it's wild that we're here. Again, to you listening at home, we feel for it. It's why. How are we here? If you find the whys, we're all looking for the whys. If you find the whys at home, let us know. Reach out to us on X, on Blue Sky, on whatever your platform of choice, YouTube comments. Let us know the whys. We're all in this together, looking for the whys. Maybe we'll pass them along to the guys at Hallis Hall if we get the opportunity. Probably not, because I don't think anybody has the whys. I think that much is clear. So as I, I'm about to log off and start looking for those wives. Kevin, do you have any final thoughts here before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, the why just might be it's a bad organization. I mean, that just might be the why. I mean, and that's a really scary thing to think about, right? But we don't know, but when you don't have answers and you're looking for them, it's a scary spot to be in. It really is. When you thought things would be different and they're not, you finally thought that you had, a better team ready to compete with the quarterback that's going to lead the way. And I think that Caleb Williams is still going to be great, but we thought things were going to be different and they're not. And it's this bad. And there's paths for the Bears to be good. There certainly is in the next couple of years. If they nail the hire, if they sack up the money for Ben Johnson and they bring him in and he turns out to be what we all think he is, there's pathways for the Bears to be really good. But there's always in the back of your mind something telling you that they might just not get it right, even if they do hire the quote-unquote right guy. And that's kind of where I'm at as a Bears fan. And it's a really scary thing. It really is. And I almost don't even want to say it on the microphone because I'm such an optimistic guy. I always have hope. I freaking had hope before this game. The sliver chance that they could win a couple in a row, Thomas Brown would look really good and we'd feel really positive. And there's still a chance again that they can win a couple games and our outlook about the 2025 season is better than it is at this very moment. But there's always going to be something in the back of my mind lingering there that tells me that they might just not get it right. And whether they draft the best quarterback prospect of the last 20 years or not, things just aren't going to work out, right? So I don't mean to be doom or gloom here. Look, there is hope to be had. There is, and there is pathways, and we just have to put our trust in the guys in that building to make the right decisions and to figure this thing out. And the good news is like the silver lining of it all is that Caleb Williams, I think, is the right player and the right person to be in the center of this and this, huge moment going forward. Like, I think he's equipped to handle, everything that is required of being the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. And I think he's really damn good at playing the position. So, if we go down with the ship, we're going down with the ship with the guy who I think is able to handle it. So that's the silver lining. And here, cheers to hoping they get it right. I mean, that is where we're at, Alex. Find those damn Y's when you get to Hallis Hall and all will be right. So as we sip our water, here's to hoping they get it right. That's all I got to say.
Love it. My 92-year-old grandmother, I asked her on Thanksgiving after the Lions game what she thought of the team, because my 92-year-old grandmother is an avid NFL fan. And she told me that she had stopped watching the Bears because they keep her up at night. She can't sleep after watching the Chicago Bears. So if you are like my 92-year-old grandmother and you're having trouble falling asleep because the Bears are keeping you up, think of Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze. Think of Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze. Let that lull you to sleep. Remember that back end zone touchdown. He got the feet down. Remember that throw up the seam? Looked good. It's bleak right now. It's really bleak right now. But hey, the two guys who they drafted in the top 10, they look pretty good. So hopefully we dunked on this team for half an hour, but hopefully that helps you sleep tonight. So for Kevin Lapka, I'm Alex Shapiro. Thank you once again for listening to The Charter, brought to you by St. Xavier University. Hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will catch you again on Wednesday.